If you explain things in videos and you want diagrams, arrows, labels, or little annotations to appear step by step exactly when you talk about them, then this workflow is incredibly useful. The nice thing is that it looks polished, but it's actually very easy to create. And it doesn't just work for a few hand-drawn arrows. You can use the same idea for much more complex graphs as well. Let me show you this very simple effect and how it's done. The whole workflow is basically this. First, you create the final diagram in excalidraw. Then I use excalidraw-animate to replay the drawing process. Then I record the animation with OBS. And finally, I place the recording on top of my main video in DaVinci Resolve Studio. Remove the black background and optionally add a bit of glow. That's it. The reason this works so well is that excalidraw keeps the order in which you created the elements. So if you first draw a box, then an arrow, then a label, that's also the order in which the elements appear later in the animation. And that makes it perfect for explainer videos, because your visuals can follow the narration one step at a time. Step 1 is to create the final diagram. I really mean the final diagram, not a series of animation states. You draw the finished result exactly as you want it to appear in the end. For example, you can add boxes, arrows, labels, rectangles, and little callouts around objects in your scene. One useful detail is that I prefer drawing the graphics in white. That makes the compositing later in Resolve very straightforward, especially if you want the lines to glow a bit. You can use color too, but white is the simplest place to start. Also, if you already know where the graphic should appear in the video, you can use a frame from your footage as a background reference inside excalidraw. That makes it much easier to place arrows, labels exactly where they should go. The reveal order depends on when each element was originally created. So, if the order matters for your explanation, create the elements in that order. The good news is that if you later move an arrow or adjust the label, the creation order still stays the same. So you can clean things up without breaking the animation logic. Once the drawing is done, use excalidraw-animate, a small tool written by Daishi Kato. It's made specifically for excalidraw, and it knows how to animate the primitives as if they were being drawn live. That means lines, labels, and boxes appear naturally over time. At this point, you already have the animated version of your final diagram. As a side note, if you don't start from an existing drawing, you can do everything in excalidraw-animate. You'll find an edit button at the top left corner that lets you seamlessly switch between drawing in excalidraw and animating the drawing. Plus, you can adjust the parameters of the animations as well. Now, for exporting a video of the animation, you could use the WebM export of excalidraw-animate, but in practice, that didn't work too well for me. So I simply record the animation while it plays, using OBS. That gives me a clean video clip that I can immediately use in DaVinci Resolve. Once you have the clip of your animation, we get to the DaVinci Resolve Studio part. I put the recorded animation on a track above my main footage. The goal is to make it look like the graphics appears directly inside the scene, almost out of thin air. First, I position the animation correctly. So I move it, crop it, and scale it until only the actual drawing remains visible and it fits the underlying video. Next, I go into Fusion and keep the setup very simple. The key step is removing the black background from the recorded animation. For that, I use a Luma Cure node. What I want is very simple. The black background should become transparent while the drawing itself stays fully visible. This is the one place where you should pay attention to the alpha channel. If the key is too aggressive, the drawing can become partially transparent or damaged. So I usually inspect the transparency view and make sure I'm removing the background cleanly without weakening the actual lines and text. Once this is done, the basic effect is already there. If you want the lines to stand out a bit more, you can add a highlight effect node afterwards. This gives the strokes a subtle glow and helps them separate from the background. The core effect is the timed reveal of the drawing, so the last piece is timing. Usually, I don't want the whole animation to just play through at a fixed speed. You want each new label, node, or arrow to appear exactly when you start talking about it. The nice thing is that this is easy to control and resolve. You can simply hold or freeze frames during the animation and wait until you are ready for the next visual step. That gives you a very precise control without making the overall workflow more complicated. And that is what makes this technique so practical for explainer videos. What I like most about this workflow is that it gives you very good results without requiring motion design skills. You don't have to build a complicated animation from scratch. You just create a clear final diagram, replay how it was drawn, and composite it over your video. So for anyone teaching, explaining, or annotating ideas on screen, this is a lightweight technique with a nice payoff. And this is also where the workflow becomes more interesting, because it doesn't stop at little hand-drawn graphs or annotations. Excalidraw also supports mermaid graphs, which means you can use the same general approach for larger, more structured, even-generated diagrams. When a graph like that appears step by step, instead of all at once, you can explain it along the way and it becomes much easier to follow. That is especially valuable when you explain systems, architecture, dependencies, or multi-step interactions. I will leave links to the tools I used in the description, and let's give a big shout out to Christopher Shadow for making Excalidraw and Daishi Kato for his work on excalidraw-animate. See you next time.